Thank you for that reminder. Not something I do very often, so thank you.
Yes.
So with that then, a little bit about me. My name is Pooja. I've been in the diversity and inclusion space for around 12 years now or so. Done it in various forms as a consultant, as a development worker, as a corporate executive, and now back again as a consultant. One of the reasons why I felt, and I left sort of the corporate sector to give me some space, was I wanted to think about ways in which we could start to address diversity, equity, and inclusion in a different manner, because I felt like we were stuck in a loop of asking the same questions. We'd seen everything that we had done for the past 12 years, and there was really no change that was taking place, no systemic change that was taking place. And I felt like we needed to sort of step back and ask some questions, and maybe ask some different questions, which was the whole reason of why I decided to leave the corporate sector and think about this. I also felt that as someone who was a practitioner, I felt that I was myself stuck in this loop of doing the same things over and over again and not really making any sustainable, practical, long-term change. And so I thought maybe we as practitioners need to ask ourselves really what the role is of someone who's taking on this role in any organization, in any institution. And with that came the genesis of this program. So Aarti, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Pooja. And hi, everyone. A quick word of introduction. By training, I'm a work and organizational psychologist. So I have that awkward position of being too academic for the practitioners and too practical for the academic crowd. But that's what I do all my career. I've been applying science and research to the workplace. So that brings me to why I thought this program was required. We felt like Metamorphosis was the perfect platform to bring some of these questions that we've all been working with. And we know from on my side, I know that there are evidence-based ideas that we can start applying. I also feel like the DEI role can be so much more strategic and important in shaking up the current systems than it is currently. So that's why I personally am very energized about this program and bringing some of these ideas to all of you. Over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, and hello and good evening to everyone. Um, for me, I think this has been something that has been a part of a dream for a while now, because when I started my work in the space of diversity and inclusion, it was more of starting to support the work around LGBT plus inclusion, or doing more work with people with disability and what it means for an organization. And as I started working both in the corporate as well as profit sector, one of the things that I saw, and would be something that most of you would have reflected on as well, is that many of us working on it because we're passionate about a certain aspect of diversity and inclusion. We try to learn, we try to do certain events, and sometimes we get stuck with that because we're not seeing the complete circle of metrics, of measurement, of seeing how impact lands, or how do we communicate the aspects around diversity and inclusion effectively. And I think this particular program will help us bridge some of those gaps. And as part of the process, learning from the participants as well, in terms of what are they seeing on the day-to-day business on the ground, and what could we do in order to partner with them to provide those frameworks, to provide those inputs. It would be a really beautiful experience. And that's my intent for joining this program and being a part of Aarti and Pooja's endeavor to create this platform to share stories. I think end of the day, we're all storytellers. It's about how we weave it into our work, how we make an impact based on our stories is where we all will be landing. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rashmi. That was beautiful. I love that we are all storytellers. I also need to let everyone know that this program has been in the making for the past year and a half, because we really thought a lot about what this would actually look like and what would be impactful, not only for us as people who were putting this together, but for everybody else who was a part of it as well. So with that, I actually want to start with a quick interaction. On your chat, we would love if you could just tell us what words come to mind when you think about diversity, equity, and inclusion from your perspective. When you think about these three words, what other words come to mind? You can just use the chat function to let us know. And Aarti, I can't see the chat, so you'll have to help.
We see some difference, belonging, safety, authenticity. Lovely words so far. Be yourself, fabulousness, of course, innovation, true self, perspectives, equal opportunities, Kyrgyzstan, plug for author Parmesh. Right now, I think about liberal thinkers. I would like it to include a bigger range of people. Well said. Yeah. Kindness, such an important word. Lovely.
Wonderful. These are great words and really
Curiosity. We'll end with curiosity for sure. Yes.
I feel there can only
Can be more
consistency.
need for more consistency. Yes.
Absolutely. Disruptive.
In good and bad ways, Deepa. Hopefully more on the good side.
Yeah, I think it's shaping into a different ways how we are looking into IND. So I think it is disruptive because you got to make it a business strategy, right? No more just a good thing.
Yep.
Exactly. No more just the good thing or the right thing. Really critical, in fact, to success. So thank you everyone for sharing these lovely words. And you'll see as we go through the rest of the program, part of our endeavor here is that when we say these three words, they're simple, they're one words, but really underneath it, there are a lot of other words that actually play into these three words. Words such as power, privilege, meritocracy, all of these huge concepts and ideas that are embedded under these three words. And our endeavor is to say, okay, let's really strip it down and let's see how do we really embed all of this in the organization and not just leave it as very superficial terms that we've now come to understand as one thing. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rashmi to tell us a little bit about what the program is about and take it from here. Over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Pooja. I'm really excited to share more details about the program, and not because it's something that that's the need of the hour, but it's also because it's going to be a very interesting journey. Interesting because, when we start our journey in the space of diversity and inclusion, we know that it's not going to, turn into something magical the next day. Each day takes a lot of effort from us and from the environment around us to be a part of this whole program, right? So for us and for this group of participants, it will be a 12-week virtual program, 12 weeks crunched into all the learning that we can share between the three of us, as well as the expert voices that the participants will hear from across the globe. And I think that's going to be a really fantastic experience for the participants as such. The idea here was not to give a classroom kind of a session for the participants, but make it more a dialogue or a conversation that they can have, a safe space where they feel comfortable to ask questions, to question some of the things that they would have seen around them as being these standards for diversity and inclusion, and also challenge it with some of their own thinking that comes in because of the experiences that they would have had. So it's a multi-pronged approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And our support or our aim would be to focus on the systemic change that we want to bring about. And that can only happen when there is personal awareness. Very truthfully told, this was an experience that I saw at a job fair a couple of years back, where we had only young people coming in to apply for a particular role, and we saw an elderly gentleman walk up to the job fair organizers, and I was really happy to see, oh, okay, immediately your DNI hat will start tingling, and you say, oh, ageism. A senior citizen is walking in to apply for a role, but this person walks up to the organizers and says, I just want to know what kind of benefits people like my child will have in this organization. And that's when he shared that his son was gay. And that it was so beautiful, because that kind of personal awareness helps him as well as other parents like him. And I felt that's where we are all going to aim as part of the program as well, to help with that personal awareness. And the idea is that this is for people who are beginning their journey in the DEI space, people who are excited about DEI, curious about DEI, and also want to make this as part of their career aspect. So that's a little bit about the program. We started listing out all the things that you will learn as part of this whole program, and I'm sure as we move along this conversation today, you will add many more to this. And please do let us know if you feel that there are other nuances that we could have missed out. But from our perspective, these are the main areas that we will focus on specifically for the participants and this particular cohort. And I'm just going to highlight two aspects which I felt are really good areas for us to know as D&I practitioners. The one which really helped me or put me into a quandary at many a times in my career was how to influence and navigate complex and dynamic situations. Okay, and I see Pooja smiling as well, because I'm sure as DEI practitioners, we've seen this. Our role is always an individual contributor, and you are brought in to kind of influence senior business leaders, senior HR leaders, and other stakeholders within an organization, where each person comes in with their own perspectives, with their own biases, and with their own right answer to that challenge. So how do you as a DEI practitioner influence and navigate that particular situation and ensure that everyone comes up as allies and not at different parts of that bull ring? So that's one thing that the participants will learn, and I think that will be more fascinating for them to see how they navigate this complex situation. The other piece which I'd like to highlight over here is how they will be able to use tools and resources that we will supply or support them with, because it's very important for individuals to understand that there are a lot of courses out there which talk about, okay, what is the meaning of diversity, equity, and inclusion? What should you do to be an inclusive leader? What is unconscious bias? So these are words that you will hear whenever you get into the conversation around DEI. But there are tools that you need to identify some of the gaps that we see. There are resources that you need to manage that. And that's what I think would be a good toolkit for the participants to have as well, in addition to this whole group of other benefits that they learn from. And lastly, something which I value a lot, which is collaborate with a network. This is something that I learned as part of my journey as well. In 2011, when I started my journey in the space of diversity and inclusion at Thomson Reuters, the first person that I would reach out to would be someone who is from a DEI world in Bangalore. And then slowly that network started moving on to Mumbai, Delhi, and other parts of the world as well. And it felt really nice that you could reach out to someone and find out whether your thinking is right, or whether you could bounce off ideas. And that's the beauty of having a network of DEI professionals from across different industries to be your partners in this space. So that's what the participants will learn, in addition to all these other things that you see on the screen. Over to Aarti.
All right. Thank you so much for setting up some of that background. And now we're coming to the question probably all of you are here for, which is how we're going to do all of this. So we have, you might know already, we are planning to kick it off April 21st. The idea is to meet twice a week for the first 8 weeks or so. And the last 3 or 4 weeks will be dedicated to the capstone project piece, which we'll get to explaining in a minute. So I'll just show you a quick glance at what we have in mind for those few weeks. So we want to start off with setting a foundation, not just about the field, but also about us and this community that Rashmi is talking about. So the first week or so, we'll be doing a lot of that baseline foundation building. We'll then move into the ideas, concepts, theories, philosophies, frameworks that we believe are the foundation for a lot of what's to come. So this, even though I must say, even though this piece sounds a little conceptual and theoretical, we've made it a point to embed theory, practical experience, as well as application into each of our weeks. All the modules have a mix of all of these things. We then will move into the role of DEI, how we can see that strategic sort of impact that we've all been hinting at. And then getting into the practical skills, competencies. What is the role of networking, building these relationships? How do you navigate those tricky situations Rashmi was talking about? Those practical pieces of how you actually practice this art and science of DEI. Um, and yes, so those are the building blocks. At some point, we will be introducing what the capstone project involves. So your proposals will be due at about the midpoint. We'll also start to build in some engagement throughout from the beginning. And so by the time you come to week 8, we want you to start working on that capstone project. Um, so you'll see the last couple of weeks are really about the practical application pieces. One thing I wanted to point out also is we understand one of the biggest missing pieces currently in the field is accountability and measurement. So we're actually dedicating a week to co-creating some new approaches. So both introducing what works, what exists already, but also understanding the need for building new approaches to measurement and accountability. So yeah, so now last few weeks, like I said, we'll focus on the practical pieces of the capstone. Uh, we have a little bit more detail about that coming up. So let me just move quickly to some of those uh, methods. So what we laid out in the previous slide was what we're going to cover, the content. How we're going to do it is going to be a mix of facilitated discussion and expert voices, and more interestingly, the coaching and peer learning pieces. So for that, we have sort of 3 ideas here. One is the group coaching approach, where the focus is still on increasing or enhancing self-reflection, self-awareness, but in a group setting. So with that cohort of participants. The second angle here we want to bring in is DEI practitioner, experts from various regions and various experiences who will then be your seasoned voice of experience to sit with the participants and um, answer questions about challenges, concerns, questions that might have been brought up in the course of those weeks as they learn the concepts that we're sharing. The other means of coaching and peer learning we hope to bring is the one-on-one coaching piece. So this is a chance where participants can directly interact with each of us facilitators, again, towards the end, where there'll be a lot more direction and hand-holding required for the project completion. So that's our approach, concepts, coaching, peer learning. And what we're very excited about is the expert voices piece, which I'll get to in a minute. I guess the capstone project. Rashmi, we want to share a little bit about this before we get to the expert voices?
Yes, yes, yes. This is my most favorite part of the whole learning process, and I think I'm a firm believer that all of us will learn better through experiential learning, and the Capstone project is intended for that particular reason itself. Now, the opportunity here is for the participants to spend the first few weeks to learn more around the concepts around diversity, equity, and inclusion, question some of the thinkings and challenge that. And slowly we introduce them to either NGO partners. So the opportunity here is for the participant to choose a project that they would like to work on. The projects could be either something that they are working on as a challenge within their own organization, or it could be if they don't have a challenge at their organization yet, then we can introduce them to an NGO or an educational institute who might have a DEI challenge. So the challenge here will be all around diversity, equity, and inclusion. They work with this partner organization in order to solve that particular challenge, and that's the beauty of learning. So they will use the theoretical aspect of what they learned, implement it on the ground, and they'll always have us as support systems. So we will have a weekly coaching as well as support to the participants in order to ensure that they're able to deliver on that particular challenge. We'll end the Capstone projects by a presentation. The idea behind this presentation would be that they are able to show how they have implemented some of the learnings, what is the impact that they have had, and what is the future of that particular project going to look like. And that's how the Capstone projects will be the feather on the cap of this whole particular project for the participants.
Awesome. So, as promised, a quick glance, like a sneak preview of the lineup of stars that we have for you, for the participants. We wanted to share these names and faces of people who've agreed so graciously to serve as our expert voices. Some of you might know them if you're already in the space of DEI. I'll just quickly talk about their special focus and what they'll be bringing to the program. So Lily Zheng, if you don't follow her already, please do. She's amazing, extremely bold and fearless voice, bringing in a lot of change to the way we do DEI. So she'll be speaking to the participants early on to again sort of create that framework and lens, or help them shape that lens that they're going to take into the full program. Meenal is an expert in the media and communication space, and that's where she applies the DEI lens. And we realize all of us are big believers in inclusive communication. So she'll be shedding some light on that. A lot of you might know and have worked with even Ishani. Um, Ishani is our very own Bangalore based founder of Serene, and she'll be bringing in that practical sort of external consultant and expert perspective. Nishma, who works for Fearless Futures based out of London, has a very unique background that spans human rights, advocacy, law, anti-oppression, all sorts of really interesting backgrounds. And Fearless Futures will be doing a wonderful um workshop with us, focused on a lot of the power, status, privilege issues that really are critical to a discussion on DEI. Stephen Huang runs the DEI Collective. Some of you might know his previous work when he worked at Culture Amp. So his focus is going to be a lot on using data, measuring DEI, basically telling the story with data to convince and work with stakeholders, business leaders to bring about change. Jay, also much loved. A lot of us have worked and met him. He now also is in the UK, and he'll bring in the internal perspective. He's been running DEI, talent, leadership development for various companies, currently with Virgin Media. Um, and if I know Jay, he'll probably bring in a quiz or two to liven things up. So watch out for that. And Bernardo, past professor, current all-around expert, author, speaker, consultant, real expert, especially in the space of inclusive leadership. He just edited a marvelous book which you should all read on inclusive leadership. So we're really, really thrilled about these voices, and we're bringing in a few more. We're just waiting for their permission to start using their names. So excited to bring them in at sort of intervals throughout the 12-week program.
Thanks, Aarti.
Sure.
I also want to say that these expert voices were specifically chosen for the lens that they have in the work that they do, because a lot of them are really questioning sort of the way in which DEI has been implemented in organizations, and even the role of DEI itself as practitioners. So we've really thoroughly looked at these speakers to ensure they're coming in to shake it up a little bit for us, so that we can sort of, really work on creating our own version of what it means to be in this role and work within organizations. So time commitment. Time commitment is around 75 hours of engagement between April 21st and July 9th. So around 3.5 months, more or less. Every week, it's a 5-hour commitment, which means that there are 2 90-minute classes per week, which is what we mentioned, split between theory, conceptual as well as practical. So 3 hours online class. Some of these classes may be a little later in the night at around 8:30, primarily because, say, for example, Lily, Stephen, they're all based in sort of Pacific time zone. So we may change it slightly for some, but most of it will be set in that 6 to 7:30 bracket. We will have 1-hour coaching practitioner circle sessions during a week, as well as 1 hour of self-learning, which we will be using Google Classroom to sort of stimulate asynchronous learning as well, so learning outside of the classroom. I will also make a statement now that for anyone who is looking to join this course, we do ask that you come in with a sense of wanting to be challenged and wanting to kind of really learn not only about the space, but also about yourself, because in our sort of experiences, the two really work together in the work that you're doing as a DEI practitioner, because it's such a unique role. So, really think about that as you're thinking about this course. The cost is on the slide, and we can talk about that later as well. So this is why we think you should sign up. These are some ideas that we have. We were looking for a course. This is why we would want to sign up, and this is what we've sort of put together based on sort of our approach and thinking around it. And with that, I'm going to just open it up for questions. The final slide is around March 31st. Please apply by March 31st at the latest, but we can come back to that again later, and you'll get all of this in your email after this call, so I don't want to spend too much time on that, but we want to open it up to questions. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that at least we can see some faces. And feel free to just unmute yourself and ask any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Hi, I'm going to go first.
Yes.
Hi Pooja, hi Aarti, hi Rashmi, so many familiar faces, and thank you so much for that. Right, it's so nice to finally see something that really addresses all those points that we have been talking about, and it's there for a small group. It's customized, and yet it's so relevant. So kudos for that. No wonder it took you all so long to put this together. So on a good note, right? So I just had 2 questions. One is, if we start on 21st April, when is the date that you're looking at closing this, and how do we graduate, right? Is there like a certificate or what's on the cards here?
Sure. So the last date will be July 9th, which is when the presentations will take place. Then the certificate, we are giving a certificate of participation. Okay. So we're not certified with any board or anything like that, but it really is a certificate of your participation throughout the program.
Perfect. So on the final day, are we looking at any form of assessment, or is it just a presentation to do the best of what we're doing?
So I'll let Rashmi.
I'm sounding like anyone else, right? So yeah.
No, great. No, that's a good question, because we have an answer for that, because we knew this would come up. So Rashmi, over to you.
Thank you, Meghna. Yeah, so the presentation is not the assessment. The presentation is only the culmination of the work that you have put in as part of the work that you were doing to support this particular organization, be it your own organization or the NGO partner that you're working with. It's the way you are showing impact. It's the way you're presenting how the way forward is going to be. So we're not measuring anyone during these 3 months, 3.5 months that they are with us. And I think it's going to be very difficult for us to do as well. The presentation is only for you to kind of say that this is how I complete a challenge that I've taken. And it's also for us an opportunity to support you. Say, for example, you're making a presentation to a senior business leader within your organization on delivering a DEI challenge, or it could be with an NGO partner that you work with as well. What are some of the things that you should be putting into that presentation? How would you make sure that you're answering all the questions? How do you make sure that this is a learning opportunity for the other person as well? So these are some of the things that we would be able to help you out with as well. So I hope
Thank you for that. Thank you for not assessing this quantitatively. This makes so much of a difference. Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you.
And I would just add also that we want this really to be the 12 weeks to be the beginning of a community. So like Rashmi said, support each other, provide feedback, that would be a huge component of the presentations. But for a lot of people, this may not be the end of a project. It may just be the beginning to kick off something they've been sitting on that's been on the back burner. Let this program be that catalyst you need to kick things off. So we'll also look at it as a step in the whole process of supporting each other over time, for what it's worth.
I agree. Thank you.
Hi guys, thanks so much. I just feel like you put together something that just feels like it's right in the moment and kind of spot on. So I'm excited about it as well. I had a question about the Capstone project and whether those were going to be done kind of solely individually, or whether there's options to kind of partner on those projects as well, and sort of a little bit more about, like, do you already have partnerships with certain NGOs who have like volunteered and said, listen, we want somebody to come in and do this, and so just a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Christy. The idea behind the Capstone project basically is to have that as an individual project that each person takes on. There could be opportunities for them to consult with others within the network to kind of come up with ideas, but this is something that they will lead on their own. The second aspect of the question that you asked, which was around NGO partners, yes, we have reached out to a couple of NGO partners, and we are looking at individuals or organizations which actually have a DEI challenge. It could be something connected to LGBT+, it could be something connected to disability, gender, or any of those aspects around diversity and inclusion that we are facing a challenge of. And the beauty of reaching out to the NGO partners was also that they were somehow facing some of these challenges, but were not able to voice it out because they were seen as people who were working for a particular cause, right? So I think this will be something really fruitful for both the parties involved in this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have a question on chat?
No, Deepa was saying she had to leave, but she said some really lovely things about the program before she left. So no question yet.
Any questions or comments will do too. We're very happy with comments.
Well, just wanted to say how cool this is. So just very, very happy to see how you've structured it, but also how each one of you has used your, background and expertise in really bringing forward, either frameworks or networks, both together in this really, really compelling manner. So just, deep gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed. You're right. I think that's why we loved even putting this plan together. Has been so much fun. So I just can't wait for more with these two.
I have a question from
sorry.
someone on WhatsApp. Sorry, please go ahead, Devi, and I can ask
Sorry,
questions.
Rashmi. Hi, I'm Devi. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share that I really like the structure of the program. So far, many courses that I've seen online are very self-paced and very one-way. I like that you also learn and leave the program with a community of, people who work in the DEI space. So I think that's what I really like about the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I'll also say that when we were putting this together, we actually looked at some of the programs that were out there in India as well as across the globe, the ones that exist in the US. And in looking at all of that is where we've decided that we wanted to actually build we noticed some gaps. And for us, we wanted to fill those gaps besides the frameworks and the general conversation that courses are having. One big part that we saw that was missing was the actual making things happen on the ground and the self-awareness piece, which are so critical to this role. So hence you'll see this program has elements of everything that we're trying to do as much as possible within the time frame that we have. And so yes, thank you very much for that.
Which is why we also want to encourage you to share with your participants or with your networks that this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be one of those quickly do something online and get a certificate. We want to make sure that we all work hard, us and the participants. So hence the time and the structure and the rigor.
Yeah. I have a question on WhatsApp from someone, and they wanted to know a little bit more around the coaching aspect. So could Pooja or Aarti just share a little bit more around the coaching aspect of the program?
Sure, thank you. So I'll take that. So the coaching aspect have three components to coaching, as you saw on the slide. The first one is actually a group coaching sort of approach, where the larger group, based on how many people that we have, will be divided into smaller groups. And basically you go through a 6-week sort of self-awareness experiential process so that you can just learn a little bit about what's happening to you as a practitioner, as an individual when you're working in this space. So those are the first component of the coaching. The second component of the coaching is actually to hear from and to interact with seasoned DEI practitioners from across the globe. And the way we've done this is we've divided it by every week. So for 3 weeks, during those 3 weeks, you will meet one DEI practitioner either from India, Asia, or the US, UK, and these are still being finalized. But all these 3 practitioners would be coming in with many years of experience, and in fact, many years of change within their own roles as well, and their own experiences. And the idea is that the group will get to interact with them, ask them any questions that you may have, really use it as, the way we like to think about it is like ask me anything type questions, but it won't really be like that. But that's kind of the general sense where you really open, very open in a safe space, can ask them questions about their role and their own experiences. The final component, which is actually going to be, will coincide with the Capstone project and the start of the Capstone project, is the one-on-one coaching, where each member of the group who's a part of the group will either be working with Aarti, me, or Rashmi, and we will be supporting you through the Capstone project. And any other questions, any other queries that you have that come up for you personally, you can use that opportunity to actually discuss that with us as sort of 3 separate facilitators. And of course, between the 3 of us, wherever the question or whatever the challenge that you may have may not be something that we can work with you with, we would definitely guide you to other people who can work with you with, or sort of answer some of the questions that you may have. So that's really the overall sort of overall coaching approach that we have in mind.
टोमेटो काट देना, टोमेटो मछली खा लेना. कितना है मछली?
Someone's ordering grocery. Okay, wait, I did it.
We're getting some nice comments on the chat, people, but no questions yet. Thank you, Parul, Meghna, B, who's B Katuria. Thank you.
Bhuvan, hi. Awesome, great. So if there are no questions, we're happy to close this call, and we will also stay on for a couple more minutes if you want to chat. and we will be sending you some more information over email. And as Aarti said, please do share this with your networks as well. This is not an only India-based program. We do want to have people from across the globe, as long as it matches the timing, which it does for Elena. Yeah. So, please spread it across, and we would love to have as many people as possible.
Sure. And thank you so much for the validation that this makes sense.
Yeah.
It really, really boosts our energy as well. So thank you so much for that.
Definitely, yes.
How do we plan to stay in touch? Is it through mails? Are we planning to create a group? Okay.
Yeah. So we'll stay in touch via email, and then we'll take it from there.
I'll put it in the chat again in case anyone missed it. But yes, stay in touch. Oh, Anjali, sorry you missed the beginning. We have recorded it. We'll share it on LinkedIn and on our website, which is, by the way, undergoing repairs, not repairs, but updates. So it'll be in its new avatar very soon. Check for that. But yeah, follow us everywhere.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good day or
All the
evening
best.
wherever you are.
Thank you, Sukmani.
Thank you, everyone. Yes. Pooja backup has hung up on us. Were you on their phone? Okay, inside.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yes.